Mr. Speaker, as Minister responsible for the sugarcane industry, I rise today in this Honourable House to give a report on the state of the industry. Mr. Speaker, there are a few issues in Fiji that have been more politicized than sugar. In the lead up to the election last year, many people were out in the grassroots spreading misinformation, using fear as a weapon to erode ordinary people's confidence in my government's reforms. And unfortunately, some have continued to spread misinformation and fear even after the election, including some of those sitting on the opposite side of the House. Not that group. Mr. Speaker, the address given by the Honourable Prem Singh on 16 October 2014 during the debate of His Excellency's the President's address is a good example of this sort of behavior. Rather than engaging in a productive or even realistic discussion about the challenges the industry faces, the Honourable Member decided to dwell on the past and try to score cheap political points using misinformation and distorted facts. For example, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Singh engaged in a long rant about past history with the EU, but failed to mention that government is once again working with the EU and the government of India to bring about development assistance to further boost the industry. The Honourable Member criticised government's failure to renew the majority of expiring land leases, when in fact government's rental subsidy has resulted in lease renewals soaring to 80% in 2013 from 43% in 1997. 80% in 2013 from 43% in 1997. The Honourable Member said that a 50 kilogram bag of fertilizer costs $31.50, without mentioning that this price is after government subsidy of $14.09. And he spent a large section of his time discussing the Sugarcane Growers Council, a favorite topic of his. He complained about the termination of the 38 councillors in 2009, without acknowledging that the council was one of the most highly politicized organizations in the industry. The councillors were political appointees. Perhaps some of them were Honourable Singh's friends, who cared about the interests of a small group of elite than the ordinary cane farmer. Proof of this, Mr. Speaker, is that there have been no representations made by the growers to convene a new election. I wonder if the Honourable Singh continues to raise this issue because, like his colleague and party leader, he has found his traditional support based in the cane belt eroding from beneath him. Mr. Speaker, I would like to point out that the administrative arm of the Sugarcane Growers Council continues to exist and provides regular assistance to growers. We believe that the council should exist to serve their best interests, not those of a select few. And so we intend to carry out further reforms of the organization to enable it to better assist our cane farmers. Mr. Speaker, I also note how quick some of those in the opposition have been to politicize the issue of the special cane payment, including the Honourable Biman Prasad. This was a payment made in the past before the beginning of the new school term to help farmers prepare their children for their courses. However, with the provision of free tuition, free textbooks, and subsidized bus fares, the demands on parents have been greatly eased by government. And of course, you can add now free water, free medicine, and you'll find out subsidized electricity. Something that the members opposite conveniently ignore. And I suppose because all these wonderful initiatives, Mr. Speaker, which have been embraced by the Fijian people, irks them. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that not all cane farmers require such a payment, but those who do are being assisted through the Sugarcane Growers Fund. I understand that as of yesterday, a total of 1,000 cane farmers have accessed loans from the Sugarcane Growers Fund, totaling $811,000, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the sugarcane industry is a national issue, not a political one. If the industry is to have any chance of long-term success and prosperity, which we believe it does, politics must be removed from the equation. All stakeholders need to work together in the best interest of the industry and the 200,000 Fijians who rely on it for their livelihood. There must be a commercial approach, as has been taken in Mauritius, which Honorable Prasad used as a reference in his budget response speech, but unfortunately he walked out.
Oh, shame. Shame.
Even though he is supposedly the opposition spokesman on finance.
Shame.
When he had the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to scrutinize the appropriation bill, if this is the level of commitment, or more appropriately, lack of genuine commitment they have to the national budget, then how can we expect them to be genuine regarding this important sector in the economy, on which nearly 200,000 Fijians depend on, directly or indirectly for their livelihood? Can I carry on? Mr. Speaker, no one will deny the challenges that the industry faces in the years ahead. But unlike those who have only negative things to say without offering any solutions on this side of the House, on this side of the House we are fully committed to the survival, to the prosperity and future viability of Fiji's sugarcane industry. So today, Mr. Speaker,
Order.
I would like to outline my government's plan to keep our reforms on track and continue to build on the success of the past few years. But before I do, Mr. Speaker, I would first like to take a moment to pay a special tribute to a special man, my former Permanent Secretary for Sugar, and my right-hand man in the industry, Manasa Banigi, who passed away early this year. I'm still coming to terms with his loss, as I, his family, his many friends, and colleagues across society, and especially in the sugarcane industry. He left a positive and lasting mark on all of us, and the sugarcane industry in Fiji is better off for his years of service. Mr. Speaker, the sugarcane industry in Fiji is at a critical turning point. When my government assumed office, many people had simply written the industry off, convinced that it was on the verge of collapse. But where others saw no viable future for sugar in Fiji, my government was determined to not only keep the industry alive, but to place it on a new and more secure footing. And our commitment to the industry has never been stronger. The fact that I continue to be Minister of Sugar in the new government as well as Prime Minister demonstrates the importance that I attach to the welfare of the industry. It is in the same manner I continue to be the Minister of Itauki Affairs. Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that the reform program hasn't been easy. Indeed, it has sometimes severely tested us, but I'm pleased to report to you today that through determination, innovation, and a lot of hard work, those who work with me on the front line, keeping this vital part of our economy turning, have succeeded. Just look at where we have come from, the uncertainty over the renewal of expiring altar leases, a 36% cut in the price of our export sugar, the rising cost of production, the poor performance of our mills, the weak financial position of the Fiji Sugar Corporation, and just look where we are now. The lease renewal issue addressed to the rental subsidy initiative through CIBUL, which has benefited tenants and landowners alike. $116 million invested in the upgrade of our 3 largest sugar mills as part of our drive to modernize the industry and put it on a more secure footing. And plus initiatives we've invested in for the benefit of sugarcane growers, such as our funding for fertilizer to keep prices low, and our work to improve cane access roads around the country. Increase in the share value of FSC and its collaboration with the private sector, such as the ANZ Bank. The private and financial sectors are now confident to deal with FSC. Mr. Speaker, an overall snapshot of the industry shows that we are not only producing more cane, but more importantly, producing more sugar from less cane and approaching international benchmarks. Against an initial estimate of 2 million metric tons of cane for the 2014 crushing season, we crushed 1.83 million metric tons of cane and produced 226 metric tons of raw sugar with a TCT of 8.1. Please note, Mr. Speaker, that this is lower than the outdated 2013 stats that the Honourable Singh decided to quote in his address. Mr. Speaker, for those who do not know, TCTS stands for tons of cane to tons of sugar. It indicates how many tons of cane it takes to produce a single ton of sugar. And it is a reliable measure of efficiency in our fields and in our mills.
How much have farmers lost in the last revolution?
Not long ago, Fiji's TCT was over 13. Not long ago. Our goal for last season was a TCT of 9, which would have indicated a massive improvement in overall efficiency. As it turned out, thanks to the investment we have put into our mills, we beat our target. This past season, Mr. Speaker, Fiji's TCT dropped to 8.1. In other words, just over 8 tons of cane to produce a ton of raw sugar. And against the mill recovery target of 83%. The industry achieved a mill recovery rate of 88.1%. Both impressive results, Mr. Speaker. Our industry was hampered, along with other sectors, by a drought which started back in March and continued throughout the harvesting season from June to November. But compared to the 2013 crushing season, these figures still represent an increase in cane production of around 14%, an increase in sugar production of more than 25%, and an improvement in TCT of 11%. All extremely gratifying. Mr. Speaker, one of the other remarkable success stories of the last few years is the remarkable turnaround of the FSC, Fiji Sugar Corporation. Government funding to Fiji Sugar Corporation in 2011 and 2012 allowed the organization to reduce its accumulated loss from 175 million in 2010 to 36.5 million in 2011, to finally recording a profit in 2012. The FAC is now able to stand on its own 2 feet, and government has not needed to provide it any direct funding since 2013. Of course, Mr. Speaker, government has supported the €40 million pre-export facility for the FSC in partnership with ANZ to improve the organization's cash flow situation. With this facility, FSC has access to short-term funding from ANZ, guaranteed by government, in order to ensure farmers are paid on time and to enable preventive maintenance works as and when needed at the mills. As for any other operational cost, the participation of private commercial banks directly in the sugar industry in such a manner is unprecedented. It demonstrates the enormous confidence the private sector has in our reforms and the strength of the management under the Executive Chair, Mr. Abdul Khan. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, government also provided a budget of $8.4 million for a cane development grant with a target of planting 3,000 new hectares of cane. I'm pleased to announce that by the end of the extended planting season last December, the industry managed to plant more than 5,600 hectares, exceeding our target by 2,600 hectares. Right. The total area under cane production now stands at 40,418 hectares. Mr. Speaker, as you can see, we have kept the faith with the 200,000 Fijians who look to us to turn back the tide of neglect by successive previous governments. We have provided them with new hope for the future. But the industry is not out of the woods yet. We all know the challenges we face in the years ahead. And that's why it's important than never before to carry our momentum forward, to keep working together to guarantee a viable future for the sake of those working in the sugarcane industry now and the generations to come. Mr. Speaker, the abolition of EU sugar production quotas post 30 September 2017 and the consequent adverse implications on sugar prices poses a very big challenge indeed. Moreover, EU sugar prices have already come under pressure with significant falls compared to prevailing prices over a year ago. So suppliers like Fiji are having to prepare for a reduction in our export revenues even before 2017, a sobering prospect for any developing nation. Mr. Speaker, we have already begun a serious search for new markets to give our industry as many options as possible in the post-2017 era. Last year, a senior delegation led by the then Minister for Industry and Trade and the Executive Chairman of FAC traveled to the Middle East and Asia to begin opening a dialogue. Encouraging talks were held, and this will be pursued this year. But in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, we are not resting on our laurels on the home front. We are not waiting to be swamped by events. Our industry is vigorously fast-tracking other initiatives to diversify and expand its revenue streams. We are moving away from our reliance on one commodity, raw sugar, because we know that this is no longer viable. We need to be smarter, to add value to our crop, to exploit new revenue opportunities, and of course open new markets. This year, work will commence on a number of important projects: branded sugar packaging in Lautoka, an ethanol project in Ratawai, a syrup mill in Penang, and a sugar refinery in Lambasa, and co-generation projects in Lambasa and Ratawai. Mr. Speaker, these plans got a big boost when Indian Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi, announced during his historic visit to Fiji, a US 70 million line of credit through Exim Bank of India. I note rather embarrassingly that SADAPA members were absent at Prime Minister Modi's historic address in this August House. And I thank two of the three members of the National Federation Party to join us in welcoming Prime Minister Modi. Sometimes I get confused with your confusion. Of course, Madam Speaker, these projects are in addition to the ongoing efforts to raise cane production, pave the way for a cane quality payment system, improve meal efficiencies, and reduce farming costs to improve the livelihood of farmers. Madam Speaker, it's all about being smarter, taking a commercial approach, being more adaptable, talking facts, and embracing technology rather than simply standing by, only talking and being swamped by events. One of the projects that we have just started is the digital mapping of our 13,000 sugarcane farms to establish precisely where they are, what they produce, and how we can improve their output. The Fiji sugarcane industry WebGIS portal, which I launched at the end of last year, is a technological breakthrough that promises to revolutionize our management of the sugarcane industry. We are now able to digitize the whole of the cane belt at farm and plot level to get a real-time picture of the performance of the industry. Using GPS, Mr. Speaker, the satellite global positioning system, we can establish the precise perimeters of our cane farms. We can walk around any farm with a GPS device and get the coordinates of those areas under cultivation and those areas that are fallow and where more can be grown. It's all digitized and stored in the industry WebGIS portal, which is directly linked to the FSC's database. Mr. Speaker, it's all about having a long-term plan to use the data we collect to improve the industry's overall performance. That's why my government, together with the industry stakeholders, has put together sugarcane industry strategic plan, which lays out a vision for the development of the industry. It is implemented by the ministry with the PS as chair and all stakeholders as members. Before I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I would like to announce a new initiative today that I'm personally very excited about, and the ministry is working closely with industry stakeholders to put together what we've called a new cane farmer package. Many of the laborers who work the cane fields have skills and know-how to run their own farms, but they don't have the opportunity or the business knowledge to get started. So the idea behind this initiative is to help laborers and other interested individuals start their own farm by helping them with such things as cane contracts, leases, and financing. I look forward to having more to say on this soon. As my time is up, Mr. Speaker, with those words, I conclude my statement this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, for your ministerial statement. I will now call upon the leader of the opposition, or representative from...
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. I stand as being designated by the leader of the opposition to also make some remarks regarding the ministerial statement made by the Honorable Prime Minister. From the outset, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, like the Honorable Prime Minister as of yesterday, I would also like to make a few comments on the remarks that he made in this Honorable House regarding the proper upkeep and the observation of the decorum of this august House. And this is also in addition to the statement or the communication being made from your eye office, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, this morning to us in this august House. Sir, I find the remarks made by the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday as very insinuating and denigrating in the sense that he was kind of generalizing as to how do we behave in this Honorable House by singly picking out on what he said, blue-blooded members of this House and how we behave in this House. I find that more insulting than what he was trying to say.
Ministerial statement, and in accordance with standing orders, what we're supposed to be hearing from the other side is a response to the ministerial statement. We're not hearing that yet.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Would you like to respond to the ministerial statement?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, for the information of the Honorable Minister for Lands. Maybe she didn't hear me. All I was trying to say is exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister did yesterday in making his ministerial statement. He went on a few minutes to say what he wanted to say on the observations of the proper decorum of this House. And may I just add a little bit more on that one, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and that is, most of us, or some of us in this house that happen to be part of this blue-blooded thing that has been depicted by the Honorable Prime Minister are here not of choice. It's not of choice, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I refer standing order 40. A minister who wishes to make a statement on a public matter of national importance must inform the Speaker and each party represented in Parliament no less than 1 hour before the beginning of the sitting day at which the minister wishes to make the statement or his or her wish to do so. A statement is made at the time appointed under Standing Order 34. There is no debate on a statement, but the leader of each opposition party represented in Parliament or his or her designate may comment for no more than 5 minutes each on the statement, which state that on Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's very clear, Standing Order 40, that they are given opportunity for 5 minutes to respond to the ministerial statement. What the honourable member is saying, this was not today when Prime Minister made that statement. So I seek your ruling on this, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Deputy Speaker, I think the honourable member is thoroughly confused, and it's a misuse of the standing order in relation to the reply that the honourable member was giving. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. I would like to call upon Honourable Lalabalavu to respond especially to the statement by the PM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Before I do that, sir, with due respect to the decision that you've just been made, that has been made by your good self, sir, I also mentioned that this statement was, it came also this morning by way of a communication from your higher office, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So as members of the opposition, we are not going to take this lying down. We also have to express our views regarding this. It's a very important statement. But let me cut it short. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Prime Minister made also rude signs during the last sitting of Parliament, during the budget address, budget debate, but we made no comments. I was asked whether, because I saw it, Honourable Attorney General saw it too, but we decided not to go that way because there are unwritten rules that exist in this House as well. Because the Honourable Prime Minister have some traditional relationship with members on this side, and also they are all from Tailevu. So we didn't want to make any remarks on that. But having said that, and since he has advised us or given his statement yesterday, all we want to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, and for the information of the Honourable Minister of Environment, this is just like the pot calling the kettle black. If people did it, we never complain. But let me reassure the House, Honourable Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, is that we are not going to be condoning that, what happened that day. Yeah, that's right. No more KC, because there's no KC here. We are all equal here, as stated by Honourable Dundau. That is all, sir. Now, let me go on to my reply.
Order. Honourable member.
Time out.
Honourable Ratu Lalabalavu. You have only 2 minutes to focus on the statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. The truth hurts. The truth hurts. But again, to make comments on the sugar industry, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, what the Honourable Prime Minister is saying is something. What is happening on the ground, the reality of it is something else, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We achieved 400,000 tons of sugar in 1999. It was an SBT effort, but after the elections, Labour won the elections, so they claimed it. But for the industry, we pegged 400,000 tons of sugar. 2006, when the military took over, we recorded a 3.4 million tons of sugar, cane produced. 300 tons of sugar was produced. 2014, as just been alluded to by the Honourable Prime Minister, we are struggling around the 200,000 tons of sugar. We are struggling. The capacity of the 4 mills is they're able to crush 4 million tons of sugar. We are really below capacity. The TCTS, yes, we commend you for that, Honourable Prime Minister. That's a great leap forward. But the total output needs to be looked into very seriously. After all these 8 years, they're still struggling around the 200,000 mark. They can't deliver the milk, they can't deliver the textbooks, now it's the sugar industry. And now come 2017. And we're happy that the Honourable Prime Minister, hopefully he's got bigger plans as to see or make sure that we have something that will cater for the future of the cane industry, and especially the people that rely on it for their livelihood. We're hoping on that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. And just to end it all, just to end my submission, Mr. Deputy Speaker, all we want to say is that we extended our hand to help the country because, yes, Prime Minister, this is a national issue. We wanted him to agree to the question that was raised this morning by Honourable Biman Prasad, but he kept on harping about politicization. Maybe he's afraid of the next elections. So, on that note, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, all I want to say is we're still struggling, but we are prepared to help. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Vinaka would like to call upon the Leader of Opposition. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I want to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for his statement. I have no doubt that the Honourable Prime Minister has very good intentions. I think he means well for the sugar industry. I was actually thinking, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to ask my colleague Honourable Prem Singh to reply to him, but I saw a very nice picture of him with the Prime Minister this morning in the newspaper. I thought I'll leave the friendship there. You know? Let me, Honourable Deputy Speaker, remind the Prime Minister of his statements about working together after the election, his UN address, and I took all that as very good intentions on the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister talks about the politicization of the industry. I think he's a politician himself now, and maybe, you know, he will begin to think like a politician within the context of the industry that we're talking about. But let me just give some figures, and as my honourable colleague already said, I think the fact on the ground is very important. In 2007, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we had about 18,000 growers, active growers. Today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have only 13,000 active growers. I agree with the Prime Minister that between 2013 and 2014, there's been an increase. And I agree with him, and I appreciate the effort that the government made together with the FSC to improve TCTS, very fundamental issue with respect to the efficiency of the sugar industry. But let me also remind the Prime Minister, when he talked about the efficiency of the FSC, which remains to be seen, because the government pumped in $220 million between 2000 or since 2009, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and only about $36 million in government subsidies on fertilizer, cane planting, repair of cane access roads. So you can understand where the focus was. And he talks about how FSC has done very well under the executive chairman. And again, that's a governance issue. I think they need to get away with these executive chairmen and get proper boards and get proper people in the industry to look at that. Because the FSC, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has not produced annual reports for 2012, 13 and 14. They need to get on to the job and get us those reports. The other point, of course, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the Prime Minister made, and I agree with him, I think a lot of what he said, he's been saying it from November 2014 and his address at the 46th session of the ISO Council. And I think he was right. He was right when he said that the prospect of losing the EU quota in 2017, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is a sobering prospect for any developing nation. And indeed for Fiji, where 200,000 people depend on the industry. So what I want to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is that we need not just short-term tinkering of the plans, we need a long-term plan. A long-term plan, a 4-year plan, a 4-year minimum guaranteed price for the farmers, because the confidence of the farmers in the industry is a real issue. There are no laborers. Farmers are moving out. Those who, 70% of the farmers, Mr. Deputy Speaker, earn a net income of less than, or roughly about $9,000. All of them needed a special cane payment. And I beg to differ, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with the Prime Minister. These 70% of farmers, who have less than 9,000 net income per year, deserved getting their own money, which would have been deducted in March. And I know people in Sayanga told me that they're selling fertilizers to actually make up for the expenses. People are not even buying the fertilizers. So what I'm saying, Mr. Deputy Speaker, while I appreciate the Prime Minister's plan, I think I will again invite him to appoint a joint parliamentary committee so that we can all put our heads together. We are willing to cooperate with the government side, because this is such an important industry that we all want to see grow. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.